ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
It is Monday, February 24th. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. We're ready to go. Our text line this hour, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. I got tickets for tomorrow's game. You got to pick them up tomorrow, though. So that's the only hang-up. You got to pick them up tomorrow. So if you want to go to tomorrow's game, hit the text line now. You know how this works. We talk to you. You talk to me. I pick a winner. And it could be on anything. You can even text and say, I want the tickets. Now, of course, I would hope that you would want to contribute to the program a little bit more than I want the tickets. But it is a valid text, so you can join us anytime, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Let's just jump into the text line now. First up, texter says, huge win for the Marshall basketball team on Saturday with the weather being warm tomorrow. They deserve to have a big crowd show up and support them. Not expecting a sellout because the only Marshall sports team that does that lately is the men's soccer team. Also, a shout-out to the women's team for having a big road win. Also, looks like with 3 wins in the last 4 games, they might be coming together for tournament time, and that's an important fact. I appreciate that text. Thank you. They are coming together. If they can put it together, possible run, and really this is going to be Marshall's only way to get into postseason. After the tournament, after the league tournament, this is it. If Marshall wants to get back to the NCAA tournament, you got to win the Sun Belt. If Marshall has any shot of doing that, you got to go into the tournament hot, and it looks like Marshall's got that opportunity. I mean, there's a lot of good things happening right now. Baseball won, split the series with Georgia Tech, so we just got the score a few minutes ago. Marshall beat Georgia Tech, came back and won that one 12-8, so splitting the series with Georgia Tech, I'm going to take that anytime. Of course, softball did lose to Clemson on Sunday, 8-0. Tennis beat WVU 5-2. Tennis team has only 1 loss this season, and that was against Virginia Tech. And that Virginia Tech team is going to beat a lot of teams. And honestly, if Marshall and Virginia Tech faced off again, I don't know if the result would be the same or Marshall would give them more of a fight, but John Mercer's got that tennis team rolling right now with just the 1 road bump against Virginia Tech. So we got a lot of positive things to get into. And, of course, with the men winning on Saturday, got to get right back at it tomorrow, take on Old Dominion. But we'll talk a little bit more about this App game as Marshall won it by 10, 69-59. Some good things we can talk about there. And later on, we're going to hear from Coach Jackson. I was over at Marshall earlier. Getting ready for the tournament? No. Coach is getting ready for the next game. Coach will probably talk tournament. Maybe. I don't even think Friday night Coach will talk tournament. Coach will talk tournament maybe Saturday or go into the locker room is like, okay, now we can talk tournament. He's not talking tournament yet with anybody. And, of course, Marshall's getting itself in a good spot, I think. If Marshall finishes anywhere from 6-4 or 3, I think Marshall is going to be all right. I don't think Marshall really is going to be in a bad spot. Doesn't matter. Marshall didn't win the regular season championship. The prize is the tournament, but Marshall's putting itself together. You got to get these last 2, though. You have to finish strong to get into the tournament on a positive note, and I think Marshall has really a good opportunity to do that. But the thing here is, you got to be able to finish off Old Dominion and then App State again at home. Should be a fun one. So we're going to get into that with you a little bit later on. We'll break the game down, then we'll hear from Coach Jackson. But plenty of time for you to join the text line, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Again, that number, 304-396-TALK. And just as a little incentive, a little added bonus for you, give you an opportunity to win tickets to go see the Herd take on Old Dominion. And we'll have that game for you. If you can't go, we've got you covered. You want to listen to it? You hear it right on 937 The Dog or right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. So we've got you covered all the way. We'll have all the tournament games. We'll also have the Marshall Women's Tournament games. So the men and women will have all the games from the tournament. That's starting next week. And then we got baseball coming up. As we mentioned earlier, the Herd gets the win, splitting the series with Georgia Tech. So back home, home openers Friday, 3 o'clock versus Fairleigh Dickinson. And we're going to have that game. You can listen to it here. And we'll have select games throughout the season, mostly Saturday home games, but we'll have this opening series, and that's coming up starting on Friday. You can listen to it here. We got a busy Friday. We got baseball, we got women's basketball, we got men's basketball. We're going to have a busy Friday of sports to get into. And of course, we got to get started, so we'll take our first break, come back, get that text line going. Brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop, and then we will hear from Coach Jackson. All of that's coming up on this edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Miss an episode? Catch it anytime on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Our text line this hour brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. I'm throwing something in to give it a little bit of extra kick today. I've got some tickets in my desk. Marshall game coming up tomorrow, Old Dominion. I've got tickets. We'll give them away for anyone who participates today by texting in. Not everybody's going to win, but if your post is creative, if it's funny, if it has effort put into it, it's going to be a candidate for my tickets. So you got to pick them up tomorrow. That's the only thing. But we've got them, and then we'll give you some tickets for App State. We'll do that probably tomorrow. Looking ahead, we'll do that and give you a chance to win some of those tickets as well. So if you want in on our giveaway, all you have to do is text our Clark's Pump and Shop text line 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. So we had a fun day, didn't we, watching the Herd beat App State. That was fun. I think that was one of those performances where Marshall is down by 1 at half. Okay, that's not a big deal. That's a 1-point difference. So it's right there. Marshall's right there. And then Marshall outscores App State in that second half, 38-27. Here's some of the things that I took away from that. First of all, Marshall was okay in the paint. Only get outscored by 4, 34-30, so I'm okay with that. The free throw line, Marshall was 9 of 10. App State was 10 of 16. Okay, that's not bad. So the free throw line didn't beat the Herd. And Marshall being 9 of 10, that was good. Went into the second half near perfect. Only missed one, 7 of 8. You know who missed that one? It was Jalen Spear, of all people, missed a free throw. Dzane Mingo, 4 of 4. Obina was 2 of 2. Nate Martin, 3 of 3. Hey, let's talk about Nate Martin. 15 points, 6 of 9 from the field, 6 rebounds, only 2 fouls, 2 assists, had 1 turnover, had a block, had a steal. I mean, that's Nate Martin, 32 minutes. Had a little bit of everything. And then Dzane Mingo, 25 points. He had a night, 9 of 15. 50% from the three-point line, 3 of 6. As we mentioned, perfect from the free throw line. Had 5 rebounds, all on the defensive side. 1 foul, 4 assists, 4 turnovers. That's all right. 2 steals. He played a pretty strong game, led all scorers for Marshall. And then Jalen Spear, who I just picked on for missing the free throw and ruining Marshall's perfect night from the line. 16 points, 7 of 16, 2 of 7, and he also had 8 rebounds, almost a double-double there. 1 foul, that's it. 4 assists, 1 turnover, 1 steal. He was out there the entire 40. He played a heck of a game. And I really think that if you look at the line and you say, okay, Obina had 6 points. He was 2 of 5. Okay. Missed his only 3-point shot. Just remember, Obina is a 3-point weapon. Hit a couple of free throws. Okay. Had 4 rebounds. But he was hampered a little bit. I mean, he had 4 fouls. He also had 3 blocks. So he continues to do things not usually registering on the stat sheet, but the 3 blocks did. I thought he played an important role in this game. And then Michael Dawson, 5 points. Yeah, all right. So what did Michael do? 2 of 9 shooting, 1 of 6 from the 3-point line. But 6 points. I'm sorry, 6 rebounds. 5 points, 6 rebounds. A couple of assists, had a block, steal. He had some key moments in that game. I think he was more instrumental, along with Obina, on those stats that didn't really register on the stat sheet. It was a good game overall for Marshall. I was happy with the result in this one. And the shooting was good, 52% in the first half, 45% in the second. I mean, we're talking a minuscule difference here. 14 of 27 in that first half, 13 of 29 in the second half. And again, someone told me when stats lie, but good shooting from the Thundering Herd. 3-point line improved. They were only 1 of 7 in that first half. So the 3-point line improved in the second half. 5 of 13. That's 38%. Still, that's an improvement. I'll take 38% over 14% any day. And then just kind of break it down a little bit further. We mentioned points in the paint. Marshall got outscored by 4. That's not terrible. Marshall had 13 points off turnovers. App only 7. Second chance points. That one bothered me a little bit. 9 second chance points for App. Fast break points almost non-existent, 4 apiece. And then bench scoring, 2 for Marshall, 7 for App. Rebounding, App State out-rebounded the Herd by 2. 24 on the defensive glass for App State, 12 on the offensive side. Marshall had 29 defensive rebounds, only 5 on the offensive glass. And, of course, you can put 2 and 2 together. Second chance points, 0 for the Herd, only 5 offensive rebounds, 12 for App State. That's going to lead to a lot of opportunities if you get the ball back. So I was happy with the game. And it was an important win. Marshall solidifying its spot pretty much. Marshall's going to be one of the upper teams in the tournament. Now you got to go in and finish strong. So how do you go in and finish strong? Well, you beat Old Dominion. You didn't necessarily blow them out of the water the first time. You got the win, though. And Old Dominion plays better on the road. We'll hear from Coach Jackson in a few minutes on that. And then after that one, I can look ahead. Sorry, Coach, you can't, I know. But you got to beat this App State team again. And if you do that, you finish strong. You finish out the last 2 at home. I don't even want to split. I want to see this team finish strong. You got 2 on the road. Now go and get 2 at home and go into this tournament. 4-game win streak. I'll feel better than, say, winning 3 of your last 4. And the App State game's a must. I don't want to go into the tournament with the feeling that, okay, they lost to App State. I don't want to go into the tournament feeling that, okay, they lost to Old Dominion, they lost to App State. I know you got to go out and play these games, and cliches are going to fly these next few days. We'll hear some in a few minutes. But at the end of the day, I'm happy with the way this team is picking up the pace, performing. And Coach Jackson, I think he's doing a good job in his first year. It's a little too soon. We've got a tournament to go. But I would rate Coach Jackson's initial season successful. Your level of success is going to vary. Championships are only things that matter. You can thank Bob Pruitt for that. We play for championships. He said that, and then it took off. And that was the mentality. We play for championships. And everyone's playing for championships. Absolutely. That's the whole goal here. You put a team on the court, you put a team on the field, you put a team in the arena, wherever you put the team, you're playing for a win, you're playing for championships. But I would rate Coach's performance so far as positive. Win the tournament, it goes up. Get into the NCAA tournament, yeah, it goes up. You get bonus points for that. You get points. If you finish strong but you lose at the end, I still think you did a fine job. If you get bounced, and here's the thing. Depending on where Marshall starts, if it's a one and done, then I'm going to be disappointed. That's probably the only thing that's going to disappoint me. If it's a one and done for Marshall. And again, this is stuff I'm looking ahead to. Right now, the focus is Old Dominion. But that would be the disappointing loss for me. Get to the tournament, okay. You finish strong, you get to the tournament, and it's one and done. And we don't know how this tournament format's going to play out. And that's the fun thing about it is teams are going to be starting a lot sooner. Marshall's going to have a few days, but I almost think that it's a good place to start. Maybe not toward the top and definitely nowhere near the bottom. And I'm not saying exactly the middle, but I still think it's a short path for Marshall. Instead of 2 games into the NCAA tournament, it could be 3 games to the NCAA tournament, or 4 games to the NCAA tournament. I'm okay with that. Marshall gets a win, gets the rust off, goes out, gets another win, and then you've got the top seeds that have been sitting and waiting, and then you've had a couple of games to get going, and then you take on those teams. Maybe you get the advantage. Now, of course, the same thing could be said about the teams coming up from the bottom. You get going, you get warmed up, you get ready to go, but they're not going to have the same issue of rust. They're going to go right from wrapping up the regular season, going down to Pensacola, playing the tournament. And I'm interested to see how that plays out. Will seeding matter? The thing about this tournament is, though, I think it honors the work during the regular season. And I like that. Let's hear from Coach Jackson when we continue. We're going to give you a chance to win tickets to go see the Herd take on Old Dominion when we continue on this edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Hi, this is Dave Wilson, host of Metro News Talk Line, and you're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Our text line this hour, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Welcome back to today's edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Our text line this hour brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Now, I'm making it fun for you today. I'm going to give you an opportunity to win tickets to go see the Herd take on Old Dominion. That's coming up tomorrow. And if you don't have tickets, they're in my desk drawer right now. I've got to go get them. The nice lady up front said, "Here are the tickets. Make sure you give them away." They're in my desk drawer, so I'll take care of you. But the only way you win those is you text to win. You know the drill. Brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop. Once again, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Coach Jackson, earlier today, had a chance to catch up with him. It's always good to see Coach Jackson. So far, Marshall has shown, I think, as a team, that it's able to adapt, it's able to learn from its mistakes, and that there's a lot of talent here. And I think Coach Jackson is going to develop into a really good coach for Marshall over time. Right now, I think he's done a good job. And I have no qualms in saying that to anyone. I think Coach Jackson's done a good job. So the task now is you beat Old Dominion, you beat App State on the road. Now you got to come back home and you got to do it again. And it's very tough to always be able to kind of show you something new. You know what they're going to do. You know what you're going to do. They're going to watch the film. They've watched the film. You've watched the film. Which team can figure it out better? And you need to win these last 2 games at home. It's important. Tournament's coming up. I know Coach is not thinking about the tournament. I am. I know he's not. But, I mean, he even said it earlier. I'll skip ahead. He was asked about the fact that, Coach, I know you got to go one game at a time. How do you kind of keep this team from looking ahead? And, I mean, he's probably taking it 1 second at a time.
Yeah, we hadn't talked about it, Keith. We're one-day mentality, not even one game. We're trying to win each day. We hadn't even talked about, the Sun Belt. We watched the game. We watched some games on the way back. Everybody had their computers, their phones, watching games. And, the way the internet now is, it's hard to not see it, but we don't talk about it. We're more consumed and focused on the day because, again, if we stack enough days, then when we get to that opportunity, when we get to that challenge or when we get to the opportunity, however you want to look at it, we'll have a chance.
So up to the Herd to start stacking days. So that's kind of his thinking right now on the tournament. I don't even think that exists for him. Not looking at it until probably sometime after the App State game, maybe Friday night when he starts looking at film, maybe Saturday. But the tournament's not a thing. Let's get started with Coach Jackson's opening statement, his initial thoughts on the week ahead.
Obviously, it's a big week coming up for us. Quick turnaround from playing the last 2 opponents, playing them, 3 or 4 days apart. So it's a quick turnaround. We shift our focus from our last game to this game yesterday, and we understand that what we did at ODU won't be enough to get it done here. If you look at their team, Appalachian State beat them at Old Dominion by almost 20, and then they turn around a week and a half later and they beat Appalachian State at Appalachian State by 1. So, again, 2 different games. We have to have our focus at an all-time high, and we have to be ready to come out and protect the home court.
That's the focus. Protect home court. You win these next 2. I think you go into the tournament with a lot of momentum. You get a few days, not too many days. And I know you want to start from the top, have a couple of games, and then you're in the championship. Or 2 games and you're in the NCAA tournament. Just depends on how you finish out in the regular season. But I think the Herd's in a good spot right now. So you got to finish strong, though. And I don't want to see this team split. I won't feel bad, but I won't feel good about it either. And I don't want to see the Herd lose to Appalachian State, final game before the tournament. And I don't want to see Marshall lose to Old Dominion, a team I thought Marshall fought hard with, but probably could have beat by more points. I know I'm a little biased. Coach can't go out there and just look at this team like, yeah, we beat them before, so we should do it again. And that's going to be the challenge for him. And he was asked about that. Just how do you have a fresh approach to going out there and playing Old Dominion again? You just saw them, and you were close with them, and you also have that attitude, well, we beat them, been here, done that. So how do you go about getting ready for a team you just saw? I mean, this isn't like it's the tournament. This is a team you played, then you went and played Appalachian State. Now you're back home and you play this team again. So how do you have that fresh approach?
Well, the cool part about it is, when we walked into the locker room yesterday to watch film, we always talk about, what do we learn, whether we lose or win a ball game. And, Dezane Mingo made a comment. He said, we've been here before, meaning I believe it's before the Georgia State game, right? We had played those guys, beat them pretty good at Georgia State, and then turned around and they came here and beat us. So, we have a little saying, don't drink the Kool-Aid. It's old, but, we say that. So don't drink the Kool-Aid and understand that we've been here before. And, what won us the game there won't necessarily win the game here at home.
Good point. The game doesn't really matter. You can learn from it, but that's not going to be the game you play tomorrow night. Now, one thing to keep in mind, and I'm sure Coach has been hitting this hard, is a team like Old Dominion, if you look at them and how they have gone about handling road games, they seem to play better on the road. Coach was asked about that. What do you take away from them? How do you limit what they do so well on the road, since it's going to be the same team, but they do have sort of a different way about themselves when they are on the road? So that was the big question. In a nutshell, what do you take away from them?
It's funny. Some teams have a tendency to play better actually on the road, and that's funny. But I don't know what it is. I don't know if they feel less pressure away from home and they just come out and play loose. But we want to keep them off the offensive rebounds, which is really important. We need to execute our press break a little better. We were up 13, 14 points at their place, and then the last 3 minutes, we turned the ball over, had some costly turnovers, and let those guys back in the game. So we want to keep them off the glass, and also we want to execute our press break.
Couple more from Coach before we hit the break. One thing that's really stood out, and as we get down the stretch, is veteran leadership. And you're going to need that. This is a team that's got a nice mix of younger players. You've got older players that have been through these battles. And so that veteran leadership is really going to come into play. And Coach talked a little bit more about his guys. What's he got to work with?
You know what, Keith? They've been around. They've been in the wars. They've experienced different situations. We had talked about, especially the last game, we had talked about being a game of runs. And one of our main focal points was to stay poised. And obviously when you have older guys, it's easier to stay poised because they've been in those situations before, and it ended up paying off at App State.
Coach Jackson, his presser from earlier today. We're going to hear more from him when we continue. Also, our text line this hour brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We're giving you an opportunity to win tickets to go see the Herd tomorrow, taking on Old Dominion. The only thing is you got to pick them up. Obviously, you can't pick them up on Wednesday. The game's Tuesday, so you got to pick them up tomorrow in the afternoon. So if you want to go, you know what to do. Brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop, 304-396-TALK. More coming up on this edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Welcome back to this Monday edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Our text line this hour brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop. We're giving you a chance to win some tickets to go see the Herd take on Old Dominion. Okay, here's the deal. They're in my desk drawer. The receptionist's not here, so she gave them to me for safekeeping. Give these away, Paul. Yeah, okay. It's Monday. Oh, we got a game tomorrow. Yeah, I better give those away. So I've got tickets to go see the Herd take on Old Dominion. You like to go? You know what to do. You got to be a part of today's show. It's easy, 304-396-TALK. That's our text line to be a part of today's edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. So we've been listening to a little bit of what Coach Jackson had to say today. Of course, the Herd getting set for Old Dominion. That's coming up tomorrow. That's going to be right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. One of the questions that was asked of Coach, and I thought it was a really good one actually, just talking a little bit about the impact some of the guys from the bench, especially Eric Harding, has had on the team. Here's what Coach had to say about his impact and how it's helped the Thundering Herd.
You know what? When you coach, right, some people show up to the game, and then once they leave the game, win or lose, if you win, everybody's happy. If you lose, the players can't play, the coach can't coach, and then they forget about it. Well, the coach stays up all night thinking, looking at himself, looking at the team, trying to find out what's best for the team, right? So it was a lot of sleepless nights when we gave up 96 points in the paint in 2 games. And I had to look at it along with my staff and say, hey, let's look at adding some size. Kay Gibbs was playing well. He didn't do anything wrong. It's just his size, right? So the before these last 2 games, we decided to put Eric in, and it's paid dividends for us. I know he didn't play a lot at Old Dominion, but he played 17 minutes, I believe, at App State, and his size helped us. So, again, it's one of those deals. He came in, he done a great job. He was big, he was physical, and his size, because we played Old Dominion, you'll see them tomorrow. They're huge. App State is even bigger. So Eric's size pays dividends for us.
They're huge. That's my quote right there. They're huge. And App State's even bigger. What's bigger than huge, though? Only reason I think about that is because, again, those of you that know, and I'm going to be quite honest with you, he's probably listening right now. The old professor at Marshall University is not a big fan of some of the adjectives and the ways we describe things. Like huge. That's one of his no words. So App State's even bigger than huge. Wow. That's they're very big. Both teams will have some size on the Thundering Herd. So I think a guy like Harding has an opportunity to really be a presence in the game tomorrow. And I followed that up with Coach, asking him about how having more from the bench is now giving you some options. If you need to go quicker, you can. If you need to go bigger, you can. And it's not just the same 4, 5, 6 guys that are out there. You really have had to use the bench, and that's giving you a little bit more of some versatility is probably the best way to describe what I was asking Coach.
Yeah, those guys, they stay ready for their opportunities, and that's one of the really good things about this team. We talked about it in the locker room after the App State. We talked about it yesterday at film. They're high character young men, and they care about 2 things. They care about themselves, they care about winning, and they care about each other. So again, as long as we keep those things as the focal point, Kay Gibbs, that guy went from playing to not playing the last 2 games, but he was the biggest cheerleader on the bench. He was the biggest rally guy on the bench, and that says a lot about his character, and it says a lot about those guys pulling for one another. So as long as we keep those 2 things at the forefront of what we're trying to do, then I think we can do something special.
Something else that has really taken the forefront as of late, Marshall was able to take the defensive show on the road and got some pretty good work these last 2 road games. Now, will that carry over? Will you be able to do that at home? But Coach talked a little bit more about how this team has really gotten the most from its defense.
We talked about that yesterday as well. Mike, I don't have to look at the stats because we talked about it. Mike went 2 for 9, 1 for 6, or 1 for 7 for 3. But we always talk about how can you impact the game, when your shot's not going in. And obviously Obina had a great offensive game at ODU, but then he turned around at App State and didn't have a great offensive game. But he still blocked shots. He still played physical. And those guys both, so every game is different. Zane, he had a great offensive game at Old Dominion, but just because he had that game doesn't necessarily mean, at App State, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate to tomorrow's game. So, again, we have to understand as a unit that each game is different. Tonight might be my night. Tomorrow may be your night. But I still have to play physical. I still have to play tough. I still have to defend and rebound and try to help my team win.
And you got to play huge. From the text line, Paul, humongous is larger than huge. Fair? Absolutely fair. So the Herd's going to have to play huge, and then against App State have to play humongous against these 2 teams. Finally, Coach talks about stacking days, right? What does it have to look like to be successful?
You know what? We again, I take those guys' input, and I go back a week or so ago. It seems like longer than that, right? When we lost to South Al and we lost in overtime, I felt that the South Al game beat us twice because we went to Louisiana and we weren't ourselves, right? So I kind of asked the guys for feedback. What can we do? Were we this? Were we that? And we've kind of scaled back our physical preparation. So we're doing a lot of mental preparation now. So today, again, we're trying to win today. We'll watch film. We'll come out. We'll shoot some. We'll work on a press break. We'll go over a few plays, and then they'll shoot some more, and then we'll be out of here. So again, at this time of the year, it's more mental than it is physical, because again, I mean, you run one more day, are you gonna get in better shape because you went balls to the wall or played hard today? Not necessarily. So it's more mental right now. Our guys are just need to stay locked in on what we're trying to get accomplished, and we know we have a lot of basketball ahead of us.
Coach Jackson, his comments from earlier today. Thundering Herd getting set to take on Old Dominion. We've got it for you tomorrow right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Then back at it on Friday, we're going to have Marshall and App State. That's going to be primarily on 93.7 The Dog, because we got baseball coming up on Friday as well. And I'm hoping that baseball will be over in plenty of time for us to get on the air over here. But I just want to point that out. We got baseball, and that's going to be at 3 o'clock on Friday, taking on Fairleigh Dickinson. And then if all goes well, and if it does, we'll be right back here at 8 o'clock. That'll be our pregame show. Marshall will tip off at 9 o'clock, taking on App State, going to be on ESPNU. And then we'll find out when the Thundering Herd will play in the tournament. Marshall will have a few days. And as a side note, the Marshall women are starting to put a run together. We'll have the women tournament action. That's coming up early next week. We'll find out. Hopefully, we'll know when Marshall plays, if Marshall can, keep it going. I think the team could probably make a run. It's going to be a tough gauntlet. That's the interesting thing. We'll see what the men can do, because Marshall will probably be starting from maybe 2-3 games back, give them an opportunity to get some play in and not be rusty and just come out. We've seen it work both ways. Team gets hot in the tournament. Team goes in, all the momentum, and just falls flat because of so much rust. I like this. Every team gets to go. And, of course, you know what it is. It's about. One, it's rewarding the regular season. Two, you bring all the teams in. That's more money opportunities, right? More teams, more opportunities for money. That's it. I wish I could honestly say with a straight face, oh, this is an ingenious idea to give every team an opportunity and make the regular season matter. Well, yeah, you're giving every team an opportunity. You're also bringing in a lot more fans, probably. I don't know. How does that work, though? If your team is 14th, let's just say your team is at the bottom. Are you excited to go to see your team? Now, I know I'm probably asking the wrong audience here, because this is a primarily Marshall audience I'm talking to today. But if Marshall is 14th, how excited would you be to go? Or would you kind of wait it out a little bit, go, okay, can't go so soon. But if Marshall gets hot, starts making a run, I can get down there for a Friday game, maybe a Saturday game, a Sunday game, maybe. I could probably get down there for a few days. How many of you are willing to go the entire week to go see basketball? Could you do a 7-day tournament? That's the big one for me. I'm curious how many people can go and do a 7-day tournament. And obviously, there will be some that will be there every day of the tournament. That's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, back with you tomorrow. We'll do it all over again. We got Marshall, Old Dominion coming up. Thanks for everyone who's been a part of today's show. I will be back with you tomorrow, but if you missed anything today, don't forget, you can go back and catch it on our podcast. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in to today's edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.